Blood in the Sands, a Creepstock audiobook by Vinnie Crawford. Cover art is provided by Cedric. The voiceover is provided by Vinnie Crawford. Creepstock is based in a homebrew fantasy role-playing setting. It's not Dungeons and Dragons, don't even bring that up, it's not. A disclaimer is ahead though. Many things within Creepstock's setting and history and lore are not entirely of my own creation. Some things have been taken and used as inspiration, such as the dwarves from Warhammer, or, as you can see here, the Volparen from World of Warcraft. Because I do not own these things, I cannot put adverts on this video. But let us get on with the next chapter of this story. Zara was in a state of bewilderment. His father Gnome and his brother Combi dragged between them towards the camp a clacker. To say the least, this was out of the usual, even more so seeing the clacker unconscious. Even worse was that the clacker was clearly from the Gatosh tribe. The red markings and the chin paint made that all too obvious. He couldn't quite understand what his father must be thinking. If they upset the Gatosh tribe for whatever reason, it would be clear that they would hunt the Volparen caravan down until they caught them, whether it be for the rest of their lives or not. Why would they be dragging this thing to camp? Soon enough, however, his father Gnome spoke up. "Son, get over here now. If we don't get this clacker into one of the tents to tend to her wounds, she will die soon." Zara was still confused, but hearing the seriousness in his father's voice, he knew not to dawdle, and so, despite his better judgment of the situation, he began, at first, a walk, and soon enough, a run over to the two, running up behind and lifting up the clacker's legs, as the group now proceeded to carry the clacker to camp much more faster, and without dragging the poor unconscious clacker's legs against the coarse sand of the desert. Soon his brother Combi spoke up. "Huh, I bet you didn't expect us to be bringing this home today, brother." To which Zara responded in kind. "Yes, I have been meaning to ask, why exactly... Oh, it's heavy. Why exactly are we taking this clacker to camp? I know you're all about helping people, Dad, but this one might be a little bit out of our league." To which his father simply looked back and said, "Grit your teeth, son. We have to do what's right. And I don't think the Gatosh tribe is exactly going to be bothering us about this." Zara looked to his father, more confused than ever, and asked, "Wait, what do you mean?" Combi suddenly had a solemn look on his face, almost as if remembering a very sad, disgusting event. When neither responded to him, Zara forcefully asked once again, "Well, what do you mean?" Combi was the one to let the truth out. "Well, brother, you remember how we thought we smelled smoke last night?" "Yeah, I remember. It was kind of like a barbecue." "Oh, poor choice of words," Combi would say, to which Zara would look in pure confusion. Eventually, Combi explained, "Well, turns out the Gatosh tribe was following us, probably to raid us." "Wait, to raid us? Well, was? Are they changed their minds or something? Did you beat the whole tribe?" he said, once more looking to the very unconscious clacker that they were all carrying. Combi shook his head in response as Gnome groaned. "No, son, we did not beat them. Somebody else did." When we found this one, she was bleeding out. I managed to stop that. But over the hill just behind her was a rising plume of smoke. Clearly it had dissipated through the night, but some smouldering was still there to let off the travesty. His father groaned at the memory as Comby continued for him. Well, yeah, that, and when we looked over the hill, the entire Gatosh tribe was, well, it was utterly sacked. Most of the tents were burnt down, a lot of corpses, but clearly some of them were missing. Drag marks through the sand made that much obvious. Zara could only describe the emotion he had right now as abject terror. He couldn't exactly wrap his head around it. Both Gnome and Comby noticed the poor lad's fear, thanks to him slowing down, thanks to his trembling legs. Luckily for him, though, they slowed down for him, despite the urgency of the situation. He couldn't believe it. The Gatosh tribe was one of the biggest Clacker tribes he had ever knew. Why, they practically owned the Stone-Tooth Barrens. Other Clacker tribes wouldn't come near the Stone-Tooth Barrens out of a territorial fear. As often the Gatosh tribe would even attack other Clacker tribes. Well, most Clacker tribes attack each other either way, but they would do so easily and readily. What made it worse is that the Gatosh tribe was, from what Zara knew, as big as an army. Of course, he had never actually seen what a real army looks like. He had heard from many travelers that the northern kingdoms used a lot of armies. But, well, here he was. Both his father and his brother telling them that their entire tribe was wiped out, sacked, and even some of them stolen. Who would steal them? For what reason? It's pretty hard to keep a Clacker as a slave from what he knew. Even more so, who would have the power to sack an entire Clacker tribe as big as that one? Whatever questions were running through Zara's head would have to wait, as the three were arriving back at camp. Of course, upon seeing the three carrying the Clacker into camp, plenty of their siblings would, exclaim their shock and surprise. Some of them yelped, some, more timid ones, would scream, to which their father, Gnome, would just simply shout, "Enough! This is not a danger. Now go back to your tents and wait inside until I say it's acceptable to come out again." One of their sisters would shout out, "You mean safe?" To which Gnome would groan and say, "Stop making things worse. Now in, all of you!" To which the siblings would disperse. Soon enough they arrived at their mother's tent, where they would obviously be tending to the Clacker and their wounds. The tent was opened, and inside was their mother, Emu. Emu was the mother of the Injaro family, and she was a decent-looking Volparan by a lot of standards. Some may say beautiful, especially her husband, Gnome. Now, Emu was older in years, just like her husband. She was a Volparan of grey fur with a white secondary tone underneath her chin, on her belly, and on the front of her legs. Around her eyes was a red sort of marking. Some would mistake it for makeup when it was actually a naturally occurring fur shade. On her forehead was, however, makeup. 2 small dots, within the middle a red diamond. On the tips of her big ears was also some red paint, along with a row of earrings from the tip of the ear along the bottom down to the side of the face. Each was dispersed about an inch apart. She wore a green dress that came down over her thighs, along with an elongated midsection of the dress that went down between her ankles. Around her neck was a large necklace of big red beads that circled around. Along with her green dress and her red bead necklace, she also had golden ankle braces that had a red rope wrapped around them. She was, in all due probability, one of the nicest looking Volparans in the world. At least, that was the Injaro's family's opinion. No one can ever truly say they are the most beautiful. Emu was also one of the Volparans in the family that was responsible for everyone's mental health. After all, as the mother, everyone came to her with their problems. But more so, Emu seemed to know how to deal with everyone's problems. Everyone always felt better after they had had a talk with Emu. No matter who they were, even Gnome, with his gruff nature, became a happy man when around Emu. However, as Emu saw her husband and 2 of their sons walk in with a clacker carried by each of them, only a few words would leave her mouth. "What on earth are you doing?" Her stern tone would make 2 of her sons recoil, but her husband, as always, simply matched her sternness. "Look, Emu, we do not have time to debate the sanity of what I'm doing. I'd never thought I'd be helping a clacker recover from their wounds either, but it's what we're doing. So please, step aside so we can put her on the bed." Emu would groan and rub at her forehead. Soon she would drag her hand down her face, and then, with an exasperated sigh and a nod, she would go, "I'll go fetch Ilya. Make sure this one doesn't die. Oh, and another thing to make sure of, Gnome," she would say as she passed her husband as Gnome looked to his right at her. "If this clacker wakes up and hurts any of our children, or me, or even you, I'm holding you responsible, even if it's in the afterlife." To which Gnome would give a sauntered chuckle. "As always, my wife. It was always my responsibility. Do not worry. I don't think this one will have the strength to attack anyone when she wakes up." And so with that, Emu nodded and headed out of the tent, throwing the flap aside as she left. Combi, Zara, and Gnome soon walked over and threw the clacker onto the bed, as best I can describe it. Of course, by throwing her there was a resounding little thud, as the bed also would creak under the much more intense weight of a clacker to that of a Volparan. All there were glad that the bed held and didn't snap into a variety of broken wood and fabric. Soon enough, Emu came back, throwing the flap open once more, as her and Ilya walk in. Ilya gasps as she looked ahead and said, "Well, I guess it's true. That's a clacker. From the Katosh tribe, no less." Zara, deciding to pull the thing that Combi did to him, says, "Well, yeah. Also, there's a pretty good story behind it." To which his father Gnome would slap him on the back of the head with a resounding and with that Zara yelped, "Ow! What was that for?" To which Gnome said, "Ilya doesn't need to hear any of that, son." Ilya would soon walk over and take a knee next to the clacker. She would inspect the right side of the clacker's body, and quickly decide, well, first things first, this clacker needs water. Seems she's been out in the sun too long. Zara, deciding to make himself useful, would nod and hurry over, seeing a water skin on the table. He would soon run it on back to her and hand it over. Ilya smiles and thanks her brother before slowly prying open the clacker's jaw, wincing as she saw the sharp teeth. She would then gently uncap the water skin with a little pop as the cork came out. She soon put the tip of the water skin to the clacker's teeth, letting the water slowly run through the sharp teeth and down the back of the mouth. The clacker would weakly swallow, unconsciously. Soon, Ilya would hand the water skin back over to Zara, who held it, unsure of what to do with it. Eventually, Emu took it from his hands and returned it back to the table where it once was, before putting the cork back on it, of course. So, Ilya said with a unsure tone. So what? Gnome would ask his daughter. Ilya responded, well, I think something's wrong with her. You don't say, he would respond sarcastically. But, no, I don't mean like that. Sure, you stopped the bleeding and, well, bandaged it up, and that'd only be enough, but something feels off. What do you mean? Gnome would look to Ilya, very confused, as would Combi, Zara, and her mother. Eventually Zara soon cottoned on, as he was a magic user too. Oh wait, now that you mention it, yeah, something is off about her. She smells funny. To which Combi would begin to laugh out loud. His mother would again, just like his father, give him a nice slap. Ow! Hey! I didn't mean it in a rude way! What other rude way is there when you say someone smells? Ilya came to her brother's rescue. He doesn't mean smells bad. He means she smells of magic. I think she's being cursed by something. But the magic's very odd. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it, Gnome would clarify. Well, we don't see much in the desert, daughter. Oh, I know, Dad, but I don't think I can cure this with just a healing spell. I'll need a herbal remedy along with it. A herbal remedy? Alright. Do we have all of the ingredients? Yes, we do, Dad, but... well, we're missing one. Well, what is it? It's a very easy one. It's a cactus flower. Well, in that case, Zara, Combi, go fetch it. Zara would sigh, ever the lazy sod. But Combi would smile and grab his brother by the back of his shirt and start to drag him away. Hey, 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 hey! Zara would say, but it was too late as the tent door was thrown open, and soon they were back outside. Luckily enough for Zara, it seemed the wind from before had finally died down a little bit. It was now a nice breeze, still a hot breeze as it was the desert, but it was a softer wind, which meant there would be less sand pelted against their body at every moment. Zara sighed in a bit of relief at that, but his brother Combi let go of his shirt and gave him a good shove to start him walking. As they began to leave the camp, Zara asked, So, Combi, you realize it's late, right? We only have like an hour or so before the sun goes down. It's not exactly a good idea to be out at night. That's when most of the predators come out. His brother Combi would let out a hearty chuckle before responding. Brother, don't worry. I've got a sword from father. We'll be safe. Yes, I know you have a sword, but that's not good enough against most predators out here. Oh, you're doubting my skills now. I never said that, brother. And Combi would laugh once more, teasing his brother the entire way as they walked through the desert. It had been half an hour since the two had left camp looking for a cactus, and they still had yet to find one. Combi would groan, pulling at the skin of his cheeks. How hard is it to find a cactus? I've seen a lot around. Why can't we find one now? Zara would simply chuckle at the matter. Well, dear brother, it would seem the world has a bit of a rule when it comes to looking for things. If you want to find it, you shall never find it. Personally, I hate that rule and that little song. Who even taught you that song? Combi would ask Zara, to which Zara would shrug. I don't remember. Ugh. Wait. He would use the sheath of his sword to stop his brother and point over. What about that one? To which Zara would say, I think that's a pincushion cactus. It's not as big as a cactus, but it certainly has a flower. Come on! The two would begin running over to it before grinding to a halt as they had neglected to mention the cave just behind it, nor the big creature now coming out of it. A large scorpion stood between them and their lovely little pincushion cactus flower. Of course, the brothers wanted to run, but they could not outrun such a beast. It seems today was going to be a bad day. The scorpion's snarl only confirmed that suspicion. But, meanwhile, far away from the two brothers, but close to the burnt-down camp of the CH2 tribe, a force of shadowy figures approached. Soon, the one at the front would hold up its skeletal hand, the rest of the force coming to a unified, simultaneous stop from the very first rank to its very furthest to the back. Soon, this shadowy figure would dismount from the skeletal horse it sat upon and trudge on over to the disturbance it saw. There was a line dragged away over the hill just to the north of the camp. This line was not made by him or his soldiers the night before. How curious. Soon he would speak up so that his soldiers may hear him.
Servants of King Katash, the emerald-eyed tombs once more requires your servitude. We march north. We will find more slaves for our great king. I swear it on the mortuary gold. We shall hunt down these intruders.
And once more, we finish a chapter. Chapter 2 of Blood in the Sands. A beast approaches. I apologize for the long wait between this chapter and last. I lost my last recording and editing software and had to find a new one. I eventually settled on Adobe Premiere Pro. So far, the software is very new and delicate to my clunky baby man hands, along with my slow-ass brain. But I hope you all enjoyed. And with that threatening ending, I sure hope these Volparans aren't in any trouble the next chapter. See you all next time.